welcome to the Pulse Percussion Twitch channel. My name is Jacob. I've marched with Pulse Bass for the past 2 years, and I'm going to be hosting this live stream with a bunch of the PQ5 from around the years from 2010 until now. We have a bunch of serious badasses, some real doozies, as you guys said in the chat. They're all here. We have Peter, Elijah, Nate, Fred, Austin, and Greg. They are all incredible people. So really quickly, I just want to go through and you guys can just introduce yourself and explain where you have marched, DCI and WGI. So let's hit up Peter first.
All right. My name is Peter Lanier. I started marching, or my first independent group was Gold in 2014. And then I went on to march PC in 2015, and then Cavaliers 16, 17, and 18. And for indoor, I did Dark Sky from 2015 to 2017, and then Pulse 18, 19.
Sweet. All right, Eli, what you got?
I'm Elijah Jones, and I've marched. I started marching at PC 15 with Peter, and that's where we started. And then after that, I marched Blue Devils B, the B Corps, for a year in 2016. Then the year after that, I went to Blue Stars in 2017, where I also marched with. I marched with a lot of Pulse people there. And then in 2018 is when I started my first season at Pulse. And when it comes to Pulse, I've marched from 18 to now. And since then, in 2018, I also started marching Blue Devils, and I've marched Blue Devils until now. And yeah, that's my whole history.
Sweet. What up, Nate?
What up?
Introduce yourself, bud. Where you marched?
All right. Well, I'm Nate Carroll. I marched Pulse. I just marched Pulse, basically. So I started Pulse in 2015, and I haven't really done DCI. So yeah, I'm going to age out in 2018. I'm old now.
Just Pulse. Sweet. All right, Fred.
Devoted.
Let's hear some Fred Hahn.
Okay. Sorry, I got through a lot of math. So I marched for drum corps Yamato back in 2000. And yeah, I don't want to say how old I am, but 2006. And PC 2007 and Academy 2008. No, 2010. Sorry, skipped a couple of years. 2010, and then Pulse. I marched for 4 years from 08 to 11, and I've been teaching since.
Sweet. All right, Austin.
I'm Austin. I started in 2014 at Cascades. I did Cascades from 14 to 16. Took a summer off. Then I did Cavaliers 18 to 19. And then I did Dark Sky 2017, POW 2018, and then Pulse 19 and 20.
Sweet. And finally, Mr. Greg Power.
I started off at Cascades, and that's in Washington.
Heck yeah, brother.
Yeah. And then I did Blue Stars, and then I moved to California to do Pulse for my age out.
Sweet. Okay. So now we've heard a little bit from each of the members of the stream. As you can see, they all marched Pulse in different eras and for different amounts of time. So those of you who are watching the stream, just start dropping whatever questions you have. They can be funny or they can be serious. A lot of the questions I'm going to be asking them are going to be a bit more on the serious side just because this is a very boisterous group, so it's going to be funny no matter what we do. So let's see what I want to do first. So I guess the first thing that I'm always really interested in when it comes to anyone who's marched Pulse is like, what drew you guys to Pulse specifically? Like, was it the design or the technique, or was it the people? What was like that deciding factor for you to make the choice to come and audition? And this is for everyone. So anyone can start.
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, Nate's going first.
Yeah, for me, marching at Chino Hills, I mean, that's like, obviously there was like a little bit of a bias there, but I mean, the thing that got me was like seeing Pulse in 2011. That was the first indoor show I saw live ever. So like I watched Fred do his thing, and like that whole show was just bonkers to me. And I mean, I was already aware of 2010, but I never saw anything live. So watching 2011, it was just like the musicianship, seeing like the athleticism, and just like, I don't know, I just like took drumline in general to a new level for me, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do that someday for sure, kind of thing. So that's what got me into it, at least.
Heck yeah, Nate. Let's go. I'll say mine. For me, I was always pretty fond of Pulse, especially in high school. My first Pulse show that I saw was 2014. We don't got any guys from that quad line here, but and then I always kind of like had my eye out on them. And like in high school, I also really liked RCC, Broken City, all that stuff. And then, but in 2016, when I was still in high school, I first met Nate, and he was always a very genuine friend to me. And so like I met him, I met Kyle Smith, I met Chris Luther, all the boys, and they really kind of showed me what it felt like to be a part of like a kind of like a brotherhood within a quad line. So I think that's kind of what made me decide, like for sure. I was like, dang, like to be in such a group like that where you can be such like good friends and family, as well as playing really cool beats. So I've always liked just like the culture, the vibe, and all the shows as well. So yeah, thanks, Nate.
Love, dude.
Who's next? Who's up?
I'll go.
Oh, Peter.
I got a fun story, I suppose.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, if we're gonna be telling, the lurid truth, when I was coming up, I wasn't the biggest Pulse fan, especially in high school when people are dumb. So I was dumb and I didn't like Pulse, and I carried that into my independent career for a minute until one fateful free day in 2017 in San Antonio. I encounter a wild Christopher Luther wandering the streets, and he tells me that, hey bud, you should come try out for Pulse. We're looking for another guy. Like my friend here is aging out because Alex was with him at the time. He's like, we need to replace this guy. So you should come up. And I'm like, I'll consider it. And then I did, and then I was in it. So that's the fun story.
There you go.
And I do not regret my decision. It was very fun.
Glad you don't regret it.
What?
I said glad you don't regret it.
Yeah.
When I say that, I actually mean I do regret it.
Okay.
The Northwesterners, who wants to go?
I can go.
Yeah.
So I kind of didn't really know anything about anything indoor wise, because I didn't really do marching band or like indoor. There's none of that in Washington. So I just kind of played drums and watched videos, and I was really into learning like small licks, but I never really learned anything. And then I would always see like Pulse, and I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool. And then I'd kind of ignore it. And to be honest, I really wasn't a huge Pulse fan when I first like started. But then I decided after a year after high school, I was going to move down to California and start like imploring those options of like all the SoCal groups. So I started to kind of walk around Watts to like the sounds that Drumlines created, and something about like the sound that Pulse made kind of just like drew me in. And it was unique. It was like a unique sound, because this was 17. Yeah. 17 was the first time I ever heard Pulse like live. And I was like, huh, this sounds pretty good. This is a unique sound. I've never heard a battery sound like this cohesive live before. And then I was still kind of set in my ways. I'm like, yeah, but it's still Pulse, so I'm gonna maybe not. And then towards the end of 17, I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna do it. after that summer because I just watched a bunch of. I went home for the summer of 17. I went home for the summer, and then I just started watching a bunch of like videos from that indoor season, just kind of like deciphering what I wanted to do. And I kind of just kept going back to Pulse and like seeing that sound, and I was like, I'm gonna do it. Screw it. So then I went to Pulse, and another reason I went is because everybody I met that did Pulse was like so nice and so like welcoming. Like you didn't have to try to be something, or you didn't have to like be a certain way to be friends with them. Not saying that about anybody else at all, but it's just like it was very inviting to me. And it's kind of like people I could connect with instantly. And then I did PAL, and then I loved it, and Chris told me to keep doing it, and then I did it, and I made Pulse.
Heck yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Beautiful. You want to go?
Sure. Yeah. The first ever Pulse show I saw was on YouTube. It was worth the wait. And when I saw those like tom-toms and they were throwing sticks to each other, and there was a guitar sound, and there was like, nee, 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 you know, in the closer, I was like, this is pretty cool. It's almost as good as the Rhythm X Muse show.
Almost.
But wait, then there was that long roll, and I was like, this is amazing. I love this. No, but the closer quad feature is one of my favorite moments. I think Ryan Anderson wrote that. You guys were like throwing it down.
Yeah,
you wrote that? Fred wrote that?
Well, maybe Ryan wrote it on paper, and then kind of like what everyone else does, we fucked it up.
Right. Mapes wrote it, and it was super cool. And you guys added some flavor.
Did you do what we did last year and make it too hard, and then John got really mad at you, and then you had to change it?
You mean like we do every year?
Yeah.
It was worse.
Worse?
Yeah, I mean, we weren't that good back then, and like during like warm-up sectionals before ensemble or something like that, and it was just stupid. We were dumb.
Yeah, that was a sick show, and then and so then I saw that Blue Stars, they were getting a big staff change because I was trying to figure out DCI because I didn't have any indoor groups near me. Oregon Crusaders was like 10 hours away, and I thought about doing it, which was kind of silly, but yeah. So I went to Blue Stars, and then after I aged out of Blue Stars, John was like, "Dude, maybe you should go to SoCal." And I was like, I definitely asked him first. I was like, I'm thinking about doing it, and that was really cool. Yeah, so I moved down, did 1 year, and it was fun.
And you were my center, and I loved you.
Yeah, I tolerated you.
Yeah.
No, Nate was amazing.
I like the videos of you using the, what was it? Did you use the exercise bike machine, or was it the elliptical?
Oh,
Yeah.
It was
elliptic.
the exercise bike.
Those are funny videos.
Oh God. Yeah, so the quad line used to stay in the same place when I'm sure they did years afterwards. It was Chris's like grandma's grandma's place.
It was like my house, and then it was my house.
Elijah and I got kicked out because we were too normal.
I'm sure.
Legitimately.
It was an amazing place. Yeah, you got to wind down.
Yeah.
And now, Fred?
Well, it's kind of different for me because Pulse wasn't Pulse when I joined. There's only RCC. RCC was like, when I was in high school, RCC was the only independent world group, and then Pulse started like in my senior year or something like that. And then so they were just starting up. They're pretty much kind of where like Vessel is right now, is just starting up in world. And so we were just like, okay, I want to be in RCC, but I'm at UCLA. RCC rehearsals at like Wednesday nights and Thursday nights. I can't swing that. So I was like, I'll try Pulse. And then, it was my freshman year. So I was like, I don't want to like throw too much on my plate. So maybe I'll drop RCC and like commute Wednesdays and Thursdays next year. That was just kind of my thinking. But then I did Pulse, and it was awesome. And that was like the first year of Mapes and Ian kind of coming in. And, it's a whole new direction compared to the previous Pulse shows that I've seen. And that kind of like sold me. I was like, hey, this is going to be something. So why not stick around and make my own thing? And, I still respected RCC. I still love them right now. But like starting my own thing felt like something I wanted to do at that point in my life. So that was the kind of the reason why I did it, and I stuck with it, and it paid off, and I haven't left. So you're stuck with me.
Yeah.
Heck
Wouldn't
yeah.
want to be stuck with anybody else.
Heck yeah.
Wizard Fred.
Boys.
Those are some great
Watch
answers.
himself.
Okay. I mean, wow, those are all like really good answers. I thought it was really interesting that you guys just all, came from very different backgrounds and all approached it very differently. I mean, that's the way that I've seen anyone who like goes to Pulse. Like they all have their own individual reasons for it. I think it's really cool. Okay, let's do some questions from the chat.
Ooh.
Nick Nation 321 asks, how do you guys do harder rounds, and do you sacrifice some wrist breakage for them?
I don't know, Fred, do we?
I'm supposed to say the rounds can't affect your technique in terms of wrist breaking and stuff like that. So we try to do things that are achievable with the proper technique, but there are exceptions here and there where you have to kind of fudge your angles a little bit just to hit that perfect playing zone. But we try to avoid that because it makes it look weird and usually feels weird when you do that. So biggest thing is we try to make things feel good. And if you have to compromise wrist breaking, it's not going to feel good, and it's probably going to change the sound too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I always remember it was 2017. We were repping the end of the quad break, like the long one, and you had us figure out the right hand for like the singles, like the suicides and all that stuff. And then right hand, okay, just left hand, okay, double stops, and like we did like a count at a time, and like we did so much stuff. And we're like, Fred, why are we doing this? You're kicking our butts right now. This is stupid. Yeah. And you're like, okay, deal with all the singles now, like as written. And it was so good. And we're like, oh, okay, thanks, Fred.
Stop.
I know what I'm doing sometimes.
Basically, you just have tech, and you like do it pretty well.
Yeah. Fred's awesome, guys, for anyone who's wondering.
Fred's the best. I'm actually interested, like, with the quad technique. This was another question that I had. Like, what drum corps do you think Pulse is closest to in terms of technique? Because I know that there are like kind of like the big six, like SEV, BD, Cavies, Coates. Like they're all very distinct in their styles and their technique. And I just didn't know, since Pulse doesn't really have an affiliation with any specific drum corps, like what do you guys think that you guys use? Like which drum corps is the closest?
I would say I had to change zero things about my approach coming from from Cavaliers to Pulse. And I think a big reason for that is because one of our main quad techs was a man by the name of Eric Ridenauer, also known as Roman, the 7 foot tall Afro ginger guy.
Because Darren started working on computers.
Yeah. He marched like Vanguard, like 04, like the early aughts Vanguard. And I think a lot of that has to do with like that older school Vanguard and like Glenn Crosby kind of being in charge, and like of everybody who kind of teaches that Pulse has been kind of touched by that that Glenn energy. It's kind of spread to everybody, kind of like
right, either indirectly or directly. But yeah, like everyone.
Yeah, because for a very good reason. They were very good, and their approach is really good. And that's what I would say, like early aughts, kind of Vanguard-ish. Try not to restrict like yourself too much. Just let it be as natural as possible while still maintaining good discipline in terms of like what we talked about before, our rounds and stuff.
Yeah, right.
I have a kind of a, I guess, historical explanation for that. About 2009, 2010, around there, kind of when we solidified our technique. Before that, it was just kind of a hodgepodge of whatever SoCal had to offer, because most of our techs were from like, BD alum or RCC alum, coming to tech Pulse. So we were kind of doing a mixture of, RCC's, BD's technique and just random things. And then '09 is when a lot of the Vanguard guys from like Murray Gus 6 years and those Glenn years came and they joined the snare line, and they kind of brought that vibe, and it kind of matched how Eric Shriver was teaching, the type of wrist movement that he wanted, the flow. I think Mapes and Glenn were talking about having more flow in the technique, kind of how Vanguard was doing back in that time. And so a lot of the snare drummers, I think half the snare line was Vanguard vets, and so we started emphasizing more of that kind of style. And then funny thing is, like, the next year Vanguard was like, hey, if you're going to do indoor drumline, you can't do Vanguard. So all those Vanguard guys went peace. And, they split up into like BD, Blue Coats, all these different places. And then that's when, it just kind of, I think Vanguard like changed staffs that year too. And after that, it kind of changed. But before 2010, the way Vanguard played was kind of where we started, getting our technique and style from. Because a lot of those guys were marching Vanguard anyway. Kind of where it started.
True that.
For sure. That makes sense.
Then I still liked, BDs around and RCCs around, so we just kind of kept that and went as much as we can with the flow.
For sure. Amazing Cheetos Live asks, what are some funny disasters to happen in the lot or show?
Funny Cheetos.
Oh boy.
Too many.
Talk about when Nate fell.
I fell.
Yeah, in 18.
Oh, age out Nate. Trying his best to not fall apart. And there was a part in the show where we had these stairs, and they ended up getting set in the wrong spot. And we're marching backwards right after the quad solo, and of course I didn't see them, and I tripped, whatever. I was supposed to pass right next to him, but I tripped and I fell on my butt, and my drums went like this. And this was in San Bernardino, right? Like, we were like, was this?
I think so. I think San Bernardino.
I think it was the WGI regional, but like, so I'm like on my butt, losing my mind. Drums are on my face, and I had a big Timmy on bass 5, like running at me because it was in a chill, and I had to like get up really quick, and then I didn't get in my spot at all, and it was terrible. It was real bad.
Yeah.
I don't have that happen again. That's the only time I've ever fell on a show, though. Rehearsals, it happens all the time. But
You remember when you fell in 19 and just stood right back up almost immediately?
In a show?
No, at the on finals rehearsal day.
On finals day? Yeah. Literally the quickest recovery I've ever seen / done in my life. That was crazy. Like, I don't know. Well, I think it was just my move was super big, and then I just slipped, and I saw all the snares like hauling at me. So I was like, if I don't get up right now, I'm gonna cause like a 10-person pileup. So I got up in like a second or two, and I was just on my way. I remember I did fall though in 18 in a show at Great Oak. Yep.
Odd falls are the funniest thing ever.
Yeah, it was literally the last set of the show too, and like mine was like super. I had like a super big move, like going back and to the right, and then like I fell, landed on my knees, and my drums came off my body like that. I was just kind of like, and just put them back on and played like the last couple notes of the show, and that was it.
And then what happened right after that?
The day after?
What did you do right after that?
Right after that? I mean, after that, the show finished. But the next
what did you do?
What did you do?
The next day?
No.
Was it the next day?
Yeah, it was the next day.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the same show. It would have been
the next day.
Very alpha move.
I had a plan. It was a prank.
Put your stake in the thing?
Yeah. Because my dot was next to like one of the tree props that were in the guarded show. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, the big, long, like PVC pipe looking gold things, or bronze kind of. And they're made of PVC pipe. And so my set was right next to the prop. So at the last day of the show, I put my stick in the prop. This was the day after I fell, though. I was going to do it the first day and just do it once. But then I fell that day, so I had to do it the next day. And then John got really mad at me.
Yeah, John lit you up. That was so funny.
That was your fault, Nate.
My fault. He found it. I didn't do anything. He just found it.
You told him.
You told him.
I totally told him. That's right. I told him.
Tagged him and said, "Hey,
No,
John, look at this."
I totally commented. Yeah.
You were getting like
Pretty much with the timestamp of the video too. It's like, look at this exact moment.
Right here specifically. You
Yeah, I was like, "Bruh, you can't, Nate."
enhanced.
for sure. I have one more in 17 because no one else was here to enjoy that besides Fred. But, I couldn't be in one of the rehearsals before a show, and they had in the last thing that happens. Dum 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 dum. Everyone goes in the knee, right? I wasn't there when they changed it, and it was a show day. So then we get to the lot, and I'm like, all right, I'm back in. We're all good. It's gonna be fun. I'm doing all the stuff. We're doing the lot. We do the show run through. No one says a single thing this entire time. We do the end. Jump, 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 jump. Nothing. We go inside. We're about to start. Nothing. So then we're at the end of the show. Everyone's all tired. We're doing the blender, and then like it was like slow motion. I just like I'm playing the part, and I see everyone like their knees are in the air. I'm like, oh no. And everyone goes down except for me, and I'm like, all right, sell it, Nate. Look real mad because you are. I was like, ah. I think that was the worst for me. Like, it was like one of those dreams where like you have like a marching dream and you don't know the show, but everyone's on you, and you're just terrified. Like that was totally. I lived that. That was not fun.
That's awesome. I remember you telling me about that. Like that's literal nightmare. Like I've had dreams about that where they learned a section of the show and I wasn't there and no one told me.
We'll make it a reality next year.
So I have a question since you've been a little bit quiet, and this was an individual question for you, for Mr. Greg Power. And this question is, what was it like having never done indoor before to suddenly being told you were the center of 5 rookies in one of the best indoor drum lines in the world? What was the most difficult part of that transition for you?
It was super easy. It was.
I seriously doubt that.
We coasted. No, yeah, it was interesting. We had a lot of amazing young talent, like some of the best young talent. It was insane. I know. I feel bad for Fred more than me. I mean, like.
Young. Oh my god.
It was fine. It was like my second year teaching actual Pulse World line. You know, I didn't know what I was doing either. So we're just figuring out together, right?
Oh yeah.
We were definitely the youngest section, and we needed to catch up to the other sections that had a lot of really great experience. And so we learned from those other sections. Ultimately, it was such a good hang. Like, so just being able to enjoy being around each other is like a really important part of the experience. So we actually had sectionals every Thursday.
Yep, Thursday nights at Chino Hills.
Yeah, Thursday night, and then we would get like dinner afterwards and just hang. And just having those extra sectionals to like talk about how the weekend's gonna be, and just always being okay with talking to each other. Like I didn't, when I was center, it wasn't like I was always telling everybody what to do. I don't think that's the best leadership. I mean, obviously there needs to be some direction, but it needs to be a discussion, and everybody needs to be heard, especially when it's only 5 people. You know, every single person in that section is really important. And so as long as you're open with communication, you're going to be successful with it. So, you know, you got to be malleable. Like I didn't come in like, I know the Pulse organization, this is going to be super easy. I hadn't even folded a floor when I hadn't seen a show, indoor show live, because I only did outdoor, insane. Which was hilarious. So actually it was pretty funny. The first rehearsal that we were folding a floor, I was just like, okay, here we go.
Just like pretending like, oh yeah.
I was like, do we have to do this every time? What the?
That's what I was doing at Dark Sky in 17. Nobody caught on though.
But then
I did not catch on.
I had no idea what I was doing.
Nice.
That's awesome. Okay. Let's see some more from the chat. W. Mitsuk asks, what is something that you would say has defined the Pulse quad line identity throughout all the years? That's really good.
Yeah. The most raucous group of lads in the known hemisphere, upper hemispheres.
You got a big brain if you march Pulse. That's pretty identifying.
Yeah, you're really smart, and you're really cool, and you're also very charming and handsome, and also really good at quads sometimes.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. That's what I would say is the most defining feature.
Oh, all those things are
absolutely. Yeah, you would not have been part of the line if you were not all of those things that I just said.
Yeah. Next question.
Nobody else has anything in place.
No other explanation needed.
Can we get a couple more people on that, please? Just really quick.
All right.
Nate, come in.
Go off of that a little bit. I think it's just us having the most fun in the room. I mean, really, like,
yeah,
it's something we touched on like all day today. It was just like being able to gel together and like have a good time and not have like too big of like an ego about anything. Just like, hey, you suck, dude. I suck too. All right, cool. We'll get better together, sure. Kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
But also being extremely handsome. Like Eli, me and Eli know. Like if you can do this face. You're in. You're totally in. That's it. That's all you gotta do.
I will say, on a little bit more of a serious note, like as like a person who's been like in multiple very different like groups, like being able like literally just to show up at a group that I didn't even like at the time, just show up and then all of a sudden everybody loves you immediately and you're like, oh, sick, this is awesome. And then you're just like, all right, I was dumb before. This is actually the best thing ever. That's the vibe. You can just anybody can walk in and
instantly feel well.
Yeah. I would say we're always welcoming and like we like to give off the family vibe however we can, you know, especially with each other. But I think if anyone's like in our presence or like even you guys just watching us have this conversation, like I hope it kind of should feel like you can feel how much we care about each other and how much like great friends we all are. So I think that's one of our key defining features. Yeah.
That was a really good note to end that on, because that's such a big defining quality about the Pulse organization just in general.
But don't forget that you have to be really handsome.
And you have to be really handsome. Yes.
Yeah.
Don't forget that. Big Cucumber 101 asks, what's your I couldn't get through it. What's your best advice for playing together as a drum line? I'm actually really interested to see what you guys say from the quad line perspective, because all I know obviously is like putting the bass line together with the battery. So I guess from a quad line, like not as a tech, from if you're in the quad line, what do you guys work on to play better with the battery?
3 words. Don't be slow.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
The number one comment in the quads.
That guy knows it.
Slow.
On the real?
Quads are slow.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's just a matter of making sure everybody does their part for sure. And then also just keeping your ears and your mind open enough to understand the energy of the people around you.
Right. I think a big thing of it is like, no matter how much you might not like it, like you're not in control of the sound, just because like your drum, like the drum doesn't speak as much as a snare drum does. Like it's just how it is. So you just kind of have to like be able to go with things and be flexible. But also there are times where like you got to stand your ground, but you just got to know when those times are, kind of thing.
For me, it was always like not trying as hard as people might think it is. People always like freak out and go all mega mind on the idea of like playing together and playing clean kind of thing. And I feel like for me, half the time it was easier, the more comfortable and more like I don't know, more comfortable and more like of a family you are with the line you're. That's how I've always approached it. It's more of a mental thing than a physical thing, I guess.
True.
Heck yeah.
Oh yeah.
I would say, sorry.
No, you're good.
I would say, like, and especially, I think it's very different for indoor and for outdoor, but just because of the environment that you're in. But there's still like some very like core like tenets to like playing with, putting a quad sound within the line that that kind of go across, and that like comes with like always knowing, especially when you're on the floor, always know where you're supposed to be listening to, especially if like you're like the center or you're in the whatever form you're in, because in indoor it's just chaos all the time. You could be anywhere at any given moment. You have to know a couple things. You have to know, like, if you're in the line and you're not like in charge of time, who is, and you should be playing with that person. And then if you are in charge of time, what are you listening to? What are you like playing to? And that's kind of like setting up a chain for like each given instance of a thing or whatever. Like if you're in a quad feature, like whatever form you're in, are you in like a little, four square, or are you in like whatever form? Who are you listening to? Or if you're trying to play with the snares, like where are the snares or whatever? That's like very important. And then that comes more now. It seems very like you have to put together all like the Legos like individually when you're first starting, but then as it goes along, it becomes a lot more natural. And then like it becomes kind of like you don't even think about it anymore at all. It just is just like a sensation, basically.
I also have one last thing to say is like you absolutely cannot have like an ego and think like, I'm better than this guy, so I don't need to listen to him. He sucks. I can play paradiddles faster than him. You cannot think like that at all whatsoever, because I've taught a few people that have thought like that. It's not a bad thing to think that you're good, but you can't like think that you're better than somebody and that you don't have to listen to them just because you're center or you're next to center or something. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. If you are a young folk listening to this now and you heard that, take that into your future in the activity. Your ego and your like feelings aren't more important than the performance and what the audience hears, basically, no matter what.
If I may, everyone's pretty spot on with their answers in terms of like the big picture and I think more advanced concepts. But like if you want to break it down to like the basics, like if you're a new drummer trying to figure out how to play with a high school drum line or something like that, individually everyone has to be on the same page in terms of interpretation. So everyone has to play with the Met. That's the only way to have a solid through line when you're practicing at home, especially during this quarantine. Everyone has a Met and everyone can play with that Met, and when you guys get together, we will still know how to play that tempo in time perfectly together. I think that's the first thing, is individual practice the correct way. And without that, no matter how much listening you do, no matter how much awareness you have with where you are in the line, it's not going to matter. If you can't play the beats, then there's no chance. So, I mean, I think that's part of it. If you get 90% clean for free, I think just by your personal, ability to play the actual music.
Mm-hmm.
Whole line can do that, then boom, you're 90% there. And then all that stuff that everyone else said, I think, is like the last 10%, just like, okay, now I'm in the arena, I'm in the line. Like now I have to adjust what I've been practicing to the rest of everybody else's, sound.
Fred, when did you get to Tatooine?
When I Googled it,
a binary sunset going on. That's all you need right now. You know what I'm saying?
just one sun.
How many moves?
We're gonna get copyright striked for that.
Yes, please, no copyrighted music in the live
John
stream.
Williams will personally come and shoot Jacob in the head.
just me.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Vitor_Rodriguez G asks, if you weren't at Pulse, where would you want to march and why?
Oh,
The classic. This is the
What a
base.
classic.
This is
I
the
know.
base where we get destroyed by all of our friends.
First, hey, I'll answer first. Personally, I have no regrets marching Pulse, but we respect a lot of the other quad lines out there in the top 6, top 8, top 12, top 20. Like, you know, honestly, I'll go on YouTube and see like a random group playing and be like, I wish I played that. That looks sick. So, but you know, no regrets. I appreciate little things about each group. So it'd be hard to say which group I'd want to march specifically. But if I had to choose one, it would probably be in a different country.
Go Naimachi.
Yeah, Aimachi. Or what's the one?
I don't think the drumline exists anymore.
What?
Yeah, I think the drumlines.
Where's Infinity? Is Infinity in
Florida?
Florida?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was like Italy or something.
Bruh.
A safer question to ask, or maybe a safer question to answer, would be: for growing up in high school, what drumline did you look up to?
There you go.
Yeah.
Then Pulse.
Impulse.
I mean, for me, I looked up to everyone that was in SoCal, and like, especially because I started to have a lot of friends in all those groups too, and especially like RCC too. Like, I always had my eye on them, especially being associated with like Blue Devils and stuff. And like, I mean, I march Blue Devils now, and like, and a lot of my friends are like in RCC too. So like, I've always thought very highly and fondly of them, and like their shows, and like Sean Vega, Mike Jackson, they're all great geniuses of like show writing and stuff like that. So I've always looked fondly to all of the other groups, but I think for me in high school too, definitely more RCC because I had a lot of friends there and stuff.
Yeah, that was the culture at our high school, was the, because I was also an RCC lad coming up, so I would have to say RCC as well.
Heck yeah.
So I had no other choices at RCC, and Pulse was like, just starting. But I think I really liked MCM when I was a kid.
Oh yeah. Oh okay. Yeah.
Like,
Actually,
MCM, like the
Answer change.
yeah, those crazy shows back then. But I'm old school, man. A lot of drum lines I watched in high school, like some of them weren't even around. So
Yeah. What about you, Jacob?
like the Black Knights, that doesn't exist anymore.
Black Knights.
Black Knights.
Mine was hardcore MCM. I was a pretty big MCM thought. Pulse and MCM were like my two favorite groups.
While I was marching, I thought Rhythm X was actually having like really cool shows during the years I was marching. Like those shows were really like cool and like just like chill, good music, clean. Yeah, I was a fan when I beat them. I was like, oh, they're gonna win, cool. And then we beat them. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And Rhythm X.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask one of. Did everyone answer, or am I?
Nate.
I think I'm dumb. I think I just didn't.
Nate wanted to march Chino Hills.
I think Nate.
Yeah, Nate wanted to stay in Chino Hills.
I mean, I think it's a little obvious for me. I mean, because that's all I grew up with. I grew up with Pulse. So I watched Fred.
He had no choice. He was gonna get cut from Chino Hills if he liked anyone.
Yeah, John would have decapitated me if he didn't march Pulse.
No,
This
but
is
I
true.
did love watching Rhythm X though. Like I feel like Rhythm X would have been like if I had to march somewhere else, it'd be Rhythm X. But of course, that'd be a little tough given where I live. But
Nah.
no, Fred did it,
Just a disclaimer: we love all groups.
Groups.
We love all groups, and we do not regret marching Pulse. I just thought that was an interesting question.
Fair.
So let's do. This is a question that I had for Nate that I thought was interesting just because of the way that Pulse has developed in the past few years. So Nate Dogg, what was it like being in Pulse during the transition from more theatrical storylines and music, like in 2015 and 2016, where those shows were much more theatrical and kind of like a play, and they had a very clear storyline? What was it like going from that transition to 2017, having this massive change in vibe, and then 2018 being a much more like introspective kind of, you take your own interpretation from it? I just thought that was interesting because Pulse now is very different from what Pulse was then, and you were in the quad line during that transition.
Yeah, I mean, so I'd say even 2017 was still part of that whole theatrical, like there was a different like script to that show. But it was that, I think that was the year where it started to change into like you can take your own meaning into it and like, you know what I mean, do what you want with it personally. But it was actually pretty refreshing because I think we had done that kind of thing for a while. And then moving into 18, like I always say 18 is my favorite show to perform, just because it was like we were able to make it so personal and so specific. But I mean, you know, 17 was 17. Everyone loves 17. I think that's my favorite show to watch, but to perform was definitely 18 because it was like way more. Like I felt like it was more for me because I can make it like that. You know what I mean? And during that year, we also had the whole like 432 push and like trying to make things more towards like we were all on the same page and we're all, you know, making it more personal for us. And then that makes it more enjoyable to watch just because we are having more fun, you know? So I don't know. I mean, each, I guess, era has its own things to it that make it amazing. Like 16 was so fun just because we were just orphans running around, you know what I mean? And it was nice to like be able to take yourself outside of yourself as well. And like kind of you have to be a character and you have to be something else. And then with 18 being like, you have to be you and kind of show yourself, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I guess that doesn't really answer the question, but but it was just it was refreshing going into the next era for sure. I think because we've done so much of the other thing, it was like, okay, it's time for something different, you know.
For sure.
Makes
That's cool. Lat Mackey asks, why do you think Drumline is so successful in SoCal?
Ooh.
Question.
Oh, that's actually a really good question.
There's the smog, the bad air, I would say.
Light pollution.
There's like chemicals in the air, you know, radiation or something. I know Peter got bit by a spider.
The beaches, you know, I think that's
Honestly, though, maybe I just thought of it as I made that joke. Maybe it's because like we don't have that here. It's only ever summer. Even during the winter, it's like 90 degrees outside, so we can always be outside, which it kind of sucks sometimes. But like you can hear things more. So that might be a contributing factor. I wouldn't say that's like the reason why, but maybe that's like a little, you know, a little bit of the fluoride in the water type thing, you know?
Yeah, I think for kind of like, or I was going to kind of mention what Fred said earlier about how like when he first started, like kind of RCC was like the only big drumline here in SoCal. And so I kind of think that like with the amount of people that did RCC back in the day and like those people started to go off on their own and make like different groups here and there. And I think that it all kind of branched up from that kind of high level drumming with high expectation. And I think that kind of created, especially down here in SoCal where there's like such a high abundance of people that want to be great drummers and stuff like that too. And just like, it's a highly concentrated area of drummers. So I think that along with kind of the RCC subculture that used to be back then definitely kind of spread around as more and more groups were being created. And then I think now it's just evolved so much in so many different directions that it's like, I feel like it's almost unstoppable.
And just to expand on that, I think, you know, Eli, you're completely right. And I think that even if that happened somewhere else, I think it could happen. I think because California, Southern California, is so big and has so many people, and all the school districts are pretty well funded in terms of music, and they have good programs. They could support that. Like, how many high school drum lines are, in Washington, Austin? Like, not a lot, right?
Yeah.
California just has so many different schools with music programs. I think every single school that I've ever come into contact with had a music program from elementary school all the way to, high school. So like, I think it's just the system that's here. It's just the infrastructure's here, the talent's here, like the instruction's here. And I think it's just kind of snowballing now, with RCC to begin with. And then now with Pulse, Broken City, all these groups, all these instructors coming out of these groups, and it's just snowballing. Everyone's starting with good instruction from middle school, even, like with Townsend and Canyon Hills, like, and Alvarado, like they all have like good instruction from when they can barely pick up sticks. Like, I didn't have an instructor who taught me how to play actual quads until I marched Yamato after I graduated high school. Like my instructor was a pit guy, and he just wrote battery beats, and we just had to figure out ourselves. Like, these kids are starting so young with good instruction. And I think it stems from, the instructors coming from these groups and just exponentially just blowing up.
Yeah. That's what I've noticed the most coming from out of state, is that moving down here, because I was curious too. I wanted to know like what makes all these groups happen in SoCal specifically. And then I moved down here and I kind of started to get it. Like, you have all these old guys who march like RCC 06 and all these places, and now they're teaching like middle schools. And like, just like Fred said, that doesn't happen in Washington. I'm pretty sure it doesn't happen in most states, but for me, I noticed almost immediately that like people start learning from like great drummers as soon as they start like middle school, sometimes elementary school. But up in Washington, I first learned drums from a clarinet player, and that's my instruction until I like moved. I had another guy who actually played drums, but I was lucky. It's not very common up here.
Oh, sorry to cut you off, man. But I think you just reminded me, like, another point is, if you're an instructor anywhere else, in the world, in the country, like, how are you making a living? There aren't these drumline programs, that you can teach 4 or 5 groups, kind of like when you're in California. A lot of these guys make a living. They can live a nice life just by teaching and writing music, because there's so many groups to just, like you said, Austin, 8 groups in Washington. You need probably at least 5 or 6 groups to like live a decent life, financially. So that's one guy up there eating bread, but no one else is, like you got one guy dominating the game probably. And down here, just anyone who wants to be an instructor, you can, if you want to scrape by that life and like grind, you can do it. I don't think that's possible in a lot of other places.
Wow.
And I think there's a degree of like a feedback loop that happens where it's like, once it first starts and you have that like generation of people, like people who are willing to like commit their lives to being like techs and like building ensembles, like it kind of like snowballs from there until it's just like a cycle, where people are like, everybody, it's like expected for a person who ages out, you're probably going to teach somewhere, whether it's your high school or another independent group or anything like that. It's like almost everybody I know and I've marched with, even if they weren't like super, like if they're like kind of like casual about like whatever, they'll still like, yeah, I'll teach a group. Yep. Sure. Like just on the side. And like that, even that in itself contributes to the culture. So it kind of like there's a cycle. And like, once you get that cycle started, it's easy to get disrupted by like, especially what's going on now. But if it's already been around for such a long time, we have like such a committed culture like we do now, we'll come out of it the other side pretty well. But yeah.
I think you guys all nailed it. I think one other thing is the competition, just exponential growth, because we're pushing individuals from a much younger age to improve to a certain level to make these ensembles. Yep. And you see the competition every weekend, like SCPA, ADLA, like they're very alive and well. And so with that competition, it kind of pushes you to grow a little bit faster because you want to, you have this healthy growth of comparisons throughout. And then, I mean, honestly, like when it comes to the most advanced level, you can probably find 30 really good drummers in a state and you can make a really good ensemble. But, it comes from like just performance experience and how long that person has been exposed to that level of competition. So getting exposed from a young age and getting a long period of education is going to make you consistent in your performance. But getting outside, I mean, I came from somewhere where it rains all the time. Like playing outside, you can actually hear. Yep. So if you're in another state that gets cold in the winter, put on your jacket and go outside. I know they do that like everywhere, but you're going to be able to hear so much more detail. And we can just go outside honestly, it's hilarious how funny, like how much rehearsals wrecked by just a little bit of rain in SoCal.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the worst. This is a tsunami.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's sprinkling.
Threat level midnight.
Not even allowed to go inside.
There's no inside.
It's very, very rare to be able to be in a building and playing drums.
I know.
Yeah, it was weird moving down here and all your dang schools are outdoors. There's no like inside hallways. They're all outside. It was weird for me. I was like, what? Who builds these? I thought this was a good idea.
What is this? Bruh.
But
also drumming super cool. So
yeah.
And people like to be cool. Yeah.
Especially here in Southern California, everybody is really conscious of how cool they are. So when you're doing the coolest thing, like why wouldn't you want to do the coolest thing?
And then you get really handsome too.
Yeah. It goes hand in hand. Like you will become more charming and handsome or whatever if you start drumming, and then you can be in the quad line, in the Pulse quad line.
If you're cool enough.
Yeah.
SoCal also has the most stick tricks, which is important too.
Who can throw their stick the highest and catch it? It's part of the audition.
Okay, so next question. So that was great. Actually, wait 1 second. Oh, this is really interesting. Carlito Suave asks, what separates open class from world?
Ooh.
Like, what do you guys? So a lot of you like have, for those of you who are watching the stream who don't know, the Pulse POW auditions are the same audition, and then it's essentially Pulse gets their members and then POW gets their members. So since all of us have kind of been through that, and you've been able to see multiple rounds of the separation between what was put in world and what was open, I'm really interested to see what you guys think.
Is he asking about Pulse open world and Pulse world, or is he talking about open class?
Just open class and world class in general.
No.
Okay, I was like, they're both.
I've never done open class, so I'm not going to answer it.
I've only done open class in DCI, but not WGI. But I think it's
the same, like
it's the same
in terms of like the differences, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know. I think just usually the member experience in open class is more younger, and it's for more fresh players and people that are trying to get experience to get into world class. But for me, I went from Pacific Crest to Blue Devils B. So I went from world class to open class and then back to world class again. And it was kind of like, I didn't really see it in terms of open and world class, just kind of like where I imagined my end goal being and where I wanted to be in order to get there. And honestly, I think each drumline I was in a part of still went up despite the world class, open class differentiations. So I don't really think it's a huge, big deal, but I think just generally like the lack, or kind of not like the lack, it's more just like there's more people that are not as experienced as world-class players.
Yeah, I think it really just comes down to experience. I mean, at least for me, teaching a lot, because I've only marched world-class, but seeing it and teaching it, it's definitely been just like, it's just experience. Yeah.
There's on the design side, I think you look at for world class it's anything and everything you can handle it. And for open class, the skill set is just slightly below that, where it's your achievable skill set is not as groundbreaking or setting new standards. Whereas world class, you're always setting new standards. You're always achieving the highest level of everything. And whereas open class design wise, I think it's just more of like it's a little bit dialed down from that, so that it's kind of a building block to get to a world class level if you want to be there. Obviously, there's open class groups that are always open class and they stay in open class, and that's because probably their ability to maintain members and just the fact that they're in a remote location, they might not have enough people to do it. So like you're always rebuilding. You can't achieve those high skill sets if you're always rebuilding with younger kids. So I think it's just a platform for everyone to be able to perform and be in a group, and you don't have to be the very best to perform. You can start and work your way up.
True.
For sure. Okay, a little bit of a comedic break. I want to know some rehearsal horror stories or funny things that have happened.
Uh-oh.
And I know you guys have a lot of these, and I think this would be a good time.
Oh no.
Oh my gosh, Brandon.
Also, do you want to talk about the what is it? The role from the halftime role from
Oh my God,
Austin.
Yeah, so I've only fallen twice in my entire career. And they were at the same
Oh.
drill set both times. One was right after we learned it, and then the next one was at finals. And Elijah made a meme about it. One where I was surfing, and one where I was never mind, I'm not going to say that one.
You were skydiving in one of them.
Yeah, I was skydiving in that
Someone share these photos somehow.
one.
top secret.
Can we share this somehow? That was pretty legendary. Oh, Matt's asking for a link. Well, if we get the link to him.
I don't know how to get a link. They're just on my phone.
Make it your
Didn't you
background.
post them on the members page?
you can put it in a Dropbox. You can make a Dropbox for it, and then you send Matt the link.
That was
I
pretty
will work on it. But yeah, that was very funny.
That was pretty epic. I just kind of fell.
What about I feel like Nate's got some
Yeah, I need to hear some. That can't be the one thing we need. We need more.
That was the only funny thing to ever happen to any of us. So
I mean,
That was the point. That's it.
Is it, when you tell these stories like and you're not there, it doesn't seem as funny. So,
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
have to be a part of it,
I
unfortunately.
mean, like I can think of one story where like we used to rehearse in a Zymox parking lot, the Zymox factory parking lot, because we didn't have any facilities to rehearse at. Just 09 or 2010 or something like that, and it was situated in between two giant warehouses, so the wind would just blow through there like crazy, and the floor, once it picked up like a parachute, so we all had to jump on the floor, and it was whipping up, so I was like yelling at somebody to like get the floor, and I was running across trying to grab the floor, and I turn around and then there's a fire hydrant right in front of me, and the fire hydrant clotheslines me, and I like do a backflip, and the whole drum line's there just staring at me, just like, what the hell just happened? And then 5 seconds later, you hear Pete Lucero just like all the way across the parking lot. I'm just like sitting there like, God damn, that's Pete.
oh man.
Good
Pete
old,
Lucero just like, he's fine, just laughing at me.
I did the same thing, but I tripped over Ryan Cuthbertson.
Classic Pete. Classic Ryan.
I didn't see him when we were pulling at the floor, and I fell on him. It was terrible.
makes sense.
I feel like I have some, but like I just don't remember. Like there's just too many, and it's hard to pick them out.
Yeah,
no,
most of our moments are just like us being super silly for no reason.
Yeah.
And then like we get busted by anyone.
Really, anyone?
Yeah, my favorite thing to do in 2018 was to do something and then get Elijah to do it with me, and then John Mapes would only yell at Elijah and not me.
Whoa.
That was my favorite thing to do, and I would do it. I think in 19.
Afterwards, be like, dude, come on, dude. Like,
I was like,
I would just get Elijah in trouble all the time.
You would, yeah, like all the time.
Elijah and I would try to get John to do as many things as we could last year. It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
We got him to dab.
We did get John McDab.
We got him to whip, I think, didn't we?
Yes. That one didn't take very long.
Yeah, because he's like, "What is this?" That was really funny.
It's a new visual, John.
Yeah, what do you think of this? He even had us put it in the other night, and we weren't sure about it, but we want you to double check.
Yeah, Steven said it was cool.
Okay.
I'm working on these images still, though.
In
Yeah,
2011, we would just text all the time. We had our phone. It was hilarious. We would send each other like JPEGs.
It was like 4 pixels. It's just like kind of, you had to guess what the picture was.
Have you guys seen the run through of Fred in 2011? He duct taped his phone to his furnace.
Yes, yeah.
That is a great video, and you should go
Great.
watch it.
Yeah, we didn't have smartphones yet.
After the run, you went up to
Laser.
Glenn, and you were like, "How was that?" He's like, "It was pretty good."
Yeah.
Just a razor
It was
flip
pretty
phone.
good. I'm glad he said that, not the other way. It's on my age out run camera forever. How was that? That was pretty shitty, Fred.
Yeah, it could have sucked actually.
That rap was pretty bad.
Oh man.
Yeah. I remember in 2018 though, I had like a GoPro 2 on like finals day or something like that. And then we were doing like the ballad in the full run. And then like I went for like the lean back or whatever we did at the end of the ballad. And then it just like fell off my head. And so I still posted it on YouTube. You can find it, but it's just like it looks like I did like a backflip. That's what Austin would always say.
Oh,
You guys
dude,
haven't
Elijah, do
seen
you
this
remember-
video? Elijah has a high school quad cam video, and it's the best.
Oh no.
Oh god, it's so
I
good.
love that video.
There's
so
some
much.
embarrassing things in that.
I love that video.
It's so good.
things in that,
How it blew up. Like there's so many band kids that are like, oh my gosh, how does your high school play such cool quad stuff? I'm like, I don't know, because I was a senior and I didn't really care. I cared, but I was like, I mean, we're just gonna play fun stuff because there's 2 of us and why not?
My senior year field show was the only quad. I just made up different rounds every show.
Hey,
That's sweet.
that's it right there.
As long as you're playing the rhythms, am I right?
What matters?
I couldn't do that my senior year. No, it wasn't gonna work.
Probably not. Okay. Let's see. Let's look at some other questions.
I'm still working on these photos. This is
Come on,
a
Eli.
very difficult process, and I don't know.
Okay. So how do you guys I'm going to get one more from the chat, and then I have one that I think is really important for us to talk about just for Pulse in general. So the one from the chat is going to be from Lyron15. I think that's how you pronounce that. And it's, how do you guys mentally prepare for a lot/show?
Nice.
Oh,
Listen to
I would
Kendrick.
say preparation starts at rehearsal.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be thinking anything different at all during a show or during a lot, other than I'm doing my warm up that I've done about 500 times, and I'm doing the show that I've done 500 times. And if you're not preparing for the energy of a show or the energy of a lot while you're rehearsing, like while you're doing your warm ups before the rest of your rehearsal block or whatever, you're doing like yourself a disservice. You're doing the line a disservice as well. So like that preparation starts as soon as you put that drum on a stand and you got the sticks out and you're in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I know if it's like show season and it's like the Friday night, then I'm like imagining myself in the gym of like wherever we're gonna perform like immediately, like in that lot or something like that, just so like I get the nerves out as soon as possible, because like everyone's gonna get nervous at some point. So like I still got nervous at every show. I always thought I was gonna drop my stick in the lot like every time, which I kind of did.
Yeah.
So you know.
You just have to let those thoughts, because those are always going to come. Like whenever people are like, "Oh, how do you get rid of nerves during a show? How do you get rid of nerves during a lot?" You don't get rid of them, because they're always going to be there.
Right.
You just are able to kind of ignore it, or just let the thoughts kind of flow through your mind. Like it was like a weird thing for me was like whenever I'm in the lot, my brain is just thinking random thoughts come in and then they leave, in and then they leave, and it's almost like you're almost like meditating. Like your brain, you're just like playing whatever, and just thoughts are coming in and out of your brain, but you're still focused. Like you can have your brain thinking of other things, but still be focused on what you're doing.
Right. It's just like staying.
Was that?
Just like staying in the moment. Like,
yeah.
As long as you're not like trying to think about like, what do you have for lunch that day? Then it's like, okay.
Or if you do think of it, let it go.
Let it go. Exactly. Yeah.
Or if you drop your stick, let it go. You know, anything that happens,
it happens to me all the time.
Yeah. You can't dwell on the past in the present, especially in something that's so, what's the word? High intensity, high energy, I guess. That's always like the momentum's just ever going. Like you don't have time to spare and like mental energy to spare towards the past. Like you just got to be focused on what you're doing in the moment.
Okay. And this is going to be the last question, and I think everyone should answer this. This was something that I thought about just because a lot of people talk about how Pulse affects their lives and affects the way that they approach a lot of things like work ethic and stuff like that. So I guess I want each of you individually to say what you think was the biggest life lesson you've learned because of Pulse or while you were at Pulse.
Ooh.
Like what values or lessons do you take and you apply in your everyday life now that you wouldn't had you not learned it at Pulse?
Ooh, all right, let me think about it. There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things. I think for me, I've always kind of taken in how to like work together with people, and just like how to work with your friends and how to make new friends in order to achieve like the common goal that everyone, obviously shares. So I think for me, I learned a lot so far in my time at Pulse about how to like work together with people, how to just have a good time, enjoy what I'm doing, and just like how to get better at drumming and perfect my own craft as well with all my friends and stuff.
Yeah, I think going off that for me was like learning how to like do something you take so serious with your friends and then like separate that, you know what I mean? Like I remember something that Rich Ramos said in 15 was just like, whatever we say on the floor is like for the floor. Like when we're outside of rehearsal, like we're all friends and we're doing, we're gonna have fun. But like when we're doing rehearsal, and if I like go off on you for a second, it's just because like I want this to be good. It's something personal towards you, you know what I mean? Or especially like with me, like in my situation, I was like I became the center. Younger than everyone else. You tired there, Peter?
Was it?
Whoa!
No, your audio just went nutso and
you went meme mode, Nate.
Ear blasted us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nate went sicko mode.
Sicko mode, mate. Come on.
Sicko mode.
Bullshit.
Continue answering the question, Nathaniel.
Yeah. So basically, the gist of it was just like, with me being younger than everyone else when I like first became like the center and being like the dude, it was tough. And with everyone being such close friends, because that's one of the things we talked about was like everyone became very, very close, and you have to learn how to like also get the job done while you're with your friends, and like learn how to separate that from rehearsal to outside of rehearsal. Like I always tell this story. Well, not always, but like me and Chris Luther were like in 2017. It was just we were always at each other because we didn't know how to like separate rehearsal from not in rehearsal. And I always talk about that one day where I like blew up on him and we're like, okay, we should talk about this, And after that, the remedy was just talking about it. It was just like, all right, I'm feeling like this because, I'm in the situation, you're in the situation, you're trying to age out, all this stuff. And we talked about it. And we're like, okay, we're still friends. Cool. We're going to separate it. We're all good. All right, sweet. I think that was like one of the biggest things I've learned was just like how to still be friends with someone that you work with. I mean, like I'm in the situation right now where I'm a caption head where everyone is older. But like I still have to like do the job and get it done at the end of the day. But we're still friends, So that's something that I've definitely like carried over just into like immediately. It was just like, okay, learn how to work with your friends, which is harder than it seems sometimes.
Yeah. Good points, Nate. Good points.
We still got Peter, Austin, Fred, and Greg.
Who wants to talk? Hey, boy.
I mean, me being kind of out of the marching age for a while, kind of being in the professional world, the biggest thing I took out of it, and I still apply every day, is just my time management. I mean, obviously everything you guys said, teamwork and cooperation and conflict resolution, but time management, because since I've been marching, like I've never had really a couple days off. It's always either working, going to school, or drumline on the weekends. And even when I taught after work, so it was just constant go, learning how to make the most of the time that I have. And now that, I'm working, I apply that every day. Like I have, a million things I have to do for work every single day, but I still have to get it done. And knowing how to like manage my time wisely is definitely one of the skills that I still, use all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Big facts.
All right. I'd say for me, the biggest thing that I learned is kind of, time management. Yeah, I learned that, but I haven't really applied it into like normal life yet. So still got some practicing to do with that. But the biggest thing for me is kind of what Nate said, but kind of taking what people say, no matter how they say it, and kind of getting to the root of what they're trying to say, even if it seems like it's kind of like out there or like rude or not what you're used to. Because for me, I'd never ever dealt with John Nates. And when you first deal with John, when you come into him, he has some interesting way of saying things. Nothing wrong with him or like saying that he's like mean or rude or anything. But it's just like different coming into it. But I remember I had to talk to Fred and I was like, does he like hate me? Does he think I'm like an idiot or something? He's like, no, he just wants you to like do better and like think about things differently, and he's just trying to push you. So I just kind of learned how to take what people say, not by the way they say it, but what they're trying to say and what they're getting at. So I kind of learned more patience with what people are trying to say and like what people are trying to like do and accomplish. Like that's what I've dealt with it a lot, that people get really impatient with somebody and somebody starts to like say something differently than what they're used to. And so they get really, really mad at them. And I'd always have to talk to them and be like, hey, hold on. They're just doing their own thing. And they're just saying this, really. It's not anything too big to like think about or like look over or like get angry about. It's just kind of their way of saying this thing is kind of what I've learned the most.
Thank you. That's a good point, Austin. I like that. Patience.
Everyone communicates differently. It's got to figure out what they're trying to say.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I take, I guess, like my what I've learned, my answer is kind of a synthesis of Nate's and Austin's a bit. Like, especially in a group like Pulse where everybody comes from anywhere, everybody processes, like everybody coming in processes information in a different way and communicates that information in a different way. Even the techs, even the members, even the support, whatever, everybody kind of like communicates in a very different way. And it's an important lesson to learn, to be able to, like, when you hear something that you're like, like what Austin said, like you hear something like, or somebody tells you something and you're like, that wasn't very nice, or like that was like a weird way of putting it, I don't get it, but like you just have to make sure you are like assuming they're coming from good faith, like they're trying to help you, even if it comes across like not like that. And I think that's a good lesson to carry on into real life, is to assume good faith from the people who are in your life and who are around you, that give you like criticism or whatever, like, hey, you should do this to improve whatever, like even at work or in just like your personal life, your personal growth or whatever. Everybody has something to say, and it's always any information you receive, whether or not you believe it's like actually helpful, it is actually helpful. Like you can always use something somebody says. And also I would say, in terms of like what Nate was saying, like I would say like Pulse kind of like finalized this idea for me of like the flipping the switch like mentality that everybody always talks about. And I think I really come to like understand that and have like really internalized that like mindset when I got to like Pulse. That was like when it was just like, cool, I get that and I can just do that. Like it's important to in a very high stress like activity like this, where not just stressful in terms of like physically, like you're doing stuff that's really hard, but it's everybody's doing something really hard. Tension is really high, even if everybody's homies, you know. There's a lot to learn. There's always something to improve. And that can be really stressful if you as a member don't like kind of distill that stress and like exude positivity and like good vibes and fun. Like I believe it's every member's job to take like the stress, not to take abuse. If somebody's abusing you, then that's the thing. But it's important to take the stress, the intrinsic stress of the activity, and turn it into like positivity towards the people around you. So everybody's supporting each other in that way. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Heck yeah.
I think we're just on Greg.
Let's hear it, Greg. Grog.
I think it kind of was a two-parter for me. It's that, you know, Pulse taught me that if I work hard enough, I will make it happen. I'll achieve it no matter what. If I didn't think it was possible, I would just keep working. And, you know, I, in Washington, saw a YouTube video, and then fast forward working, you know, losing sleep and just working really, really hard, I was able to do it. You know, it's like, I want to play that. You know, I saw Bill Bachman videos and didn't have a quad teacher, and I just bought a quad pad and started learning and hitting rims. And yeah, and you just put your mind to it. And that's what Pulse teaches you. It's like there's another level of clarity to achieve. And if you know, it's like, okay, I thought that was a good rep, but we can still get better. And that I applied that to the rest of my life, and it's gone really well. And then the second one is the pursuit of the absurd is valuable. Like I always think about if you were to wear quads and walk down the street, what would somebody think? Like, yeah, if somebody's wearing a snare drum, it's like, I'm waddling around. They're like, oh, it's Nick Cannon. But like, if you're wearing quads, people are like, what are you doing? What are you about to do with that? Is that, are you about to, is that a rocket launcher?
It's a weapon.
Are you an AT-AT from Star Wars? I had a lot of time to think about my answer.
Good answer.
Holy shit.
But no, like, you know, it's valuable because it taught me so much about what I can value in my life going forward, and art, connection with others, and positive vibes. I got a sticker.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good vibes all the time.
Wow, that broke me. That is going to be the last of the questions, everybody. I am told that we have some clips.
You want to watch me fall?
Yeah, we have either some clips or some edited photos of Austin's fall, and Matt Lackey is about. Oh, here we go.
Oh, this is totally it.
This is it.
Halftime.
Woo! I go.
Very well, soldier.
He left him. He's left him the best.
Say your prayers.
Wow.
Oh, there I go.
Let's show the other one.
Don't show the other one.
There's no other one.
Oh, thank God.
There's one more.
I will say
Okay.
there was an enterprising young lad, asking about orcs through the chat, and that we
Who's
ignored.
asking
the
about
kid.
orcs?
You totally ignored the orcs, man.
Orcs? There were orcs.
What's the orc question?
Well,
Yeah, there's
Matthew
so
Lackey
many
was
questions
was
About-
feeding
so
me
many people
questions.
were asking about orcs.
What are the
I-
orc questions?
I did not see the orc questions as Matthew Lackey was feeding
Somebody
me the orcs.
deleted them.
Yeah.
Dude.
Okay. Well,
Like, what are our thoughts on orcs, guys? I'm just kidding.
It's pretty sweet.
So, I mean, as the person who definitely didn't spam the chat with those questions, I will say that orcs, I think the best kind of orcs are the
What are you talking about?
Boy, there's fucking.
You should mute it.
course, please. Well, the World of Warcraft orcs.
The World of Warcraft orcs. Nice.
So many varieties. They ride wolves.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
I don't know. Austin, what do you
okay.
think about orcs?
They are only part of the horde, though. So
what?
That's true. But the horde is the coolest.
talk about the alliance.
Well, as they're talking about orgs, thank you to everyone that tuned into this live stream. I know we all really appreciate you guys taking some time to spend your part of your night with myself and a bunch of the PQ5. Thank you guys for coming on to the live stream and answering questions. This was a lot of fun. This was really good. I don't know what else to say.
Thanks, Jacob. You're great, man.
Yeah, thanks, Jacob.
You guys are great.
We should
We should have everybody guess what the P stands for in PQ5.
Oh yeah, everyone guess what the P in PQ5 is.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah, everybody guess.
I have a guess.
Punishment.
No lewd answers.
Is
Potato.
it,
Will neither confirm nor deny the answer.
Is it pizza?
Someone said potato.
I think it's
Close.
Here's the pun.
You could refer to it as a potato.
It could be a potato.
Is it Pulse?
Why isn't that? Is it power?
Pork, Patrick,
Portos?
Power for Greg Power,
There you go. I like that.
Could be.
Pizza,
Pizza.
Poopy.
orcs.
There we go, Lucas.
Lucas, get out here. What the? You already had yours.
Lucas Bollenbecker.
What did a four dog say?
Four dog?
Four dog,
And P is for Pete.
It's
which is
a
definitely
pterodactyl.
For pterodactyl. It's totally for pterodactyl.
Yeah, pterodactyl.
What if we just read their answers for like the next hour?
Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
No, I don't think
I want more
Matt's,
orc questions.
Matt's gonna allow this.
Feed me orc questions.
Orcs, yeah, okay. Nate, what are your favorite kind of orcs?
Give the goblins some gold.
Got to be the Lord of the Ring orcs. The dude, like, what's his name with the white thing on his face?
Oh yeah, that guy is
White
super
face
cool.
orc.
That's the one.
White face orc.
Are you talking about from The Hobbit or like from the Return of the King, the guy with like the big lumpy face?
King.
Yeah,
That
that dude. I forgot his name, but he's super cool.
Yep.
Sounded like they were from New Zealand.
Yeah, all the orcs, people from New Zealand look like that naturally. So,
Yeah, if you go to New Zealand, you'll just see a bunch of orcs walking around.
Do they have like New Zealand accents?
yeah.
It's kind of like an Australian
You
accent,
can't
but it's
talk
got
like
more
that and not
ridiculous.
look like an orc. You know what I mean? Come on.
Hey,
saw it
Austin,
first
is it
from
true
last-
Austin, is it true that your middle name is Orc?
I'm not going to disclose that information on a
Austin
live stream.
Collins, I can confirm.
Austin Orc Collins.
Okay, well now people
No.
can like steal his like records and stuff. Like you can look up Austin's
Yeah, and I'm going to give him my
security
social
number now that you know his
security
middle name.
Yep.
What's your maiden name? What's your mom's name?
What's your mom's name? Is it Orc?
What's your mom's orc name?
Yeah, I'm getting
What
told
are
that we
you-
have to end this. So we gotta go. Again, thank you for everyone that joined in. I know as a member of Pulse, this means a lot to me seeing so many people join the stream and ask us questions. And I had a ton of fun with this. I know all the guys on this stream had a ton of fun with this. They're all the homies. So this was a good time. And again, thank you for joining. Everyone say bye.
Bye, everybody. We're gonna have a talking. I'm gonna have a talking
Wave.
Biology.
Everyone talk at the same time.
Orcs are taking over. The pandemic.
I like
came from
orcs.
Yeah, or
The quarantine.
More orcs.
Everybody, make sure that you comment about orcs on every Pulse Percussion.
yeah.
The person running the Pulse accounts really likes orcs, and they really want you to.
Lots of orcs. Let's go. Many orcs. So many orcs.
Pulse.com.
Bye.
Yep.